Good morning. It's December 29th. This is Caster Monkey. We're going to attempt some aluminum bronze today. To start, aluminum bronze is a copper alloy with about 5 to 11% aluminum. Any more than 11% and it gets brittle and crumbles. And I had an issue with that last year, so you have to precisely weigh out your metal composition, which we have here. This is about 8.2% aluminum, so we've got a good mix here. We'll melt the copper and then put the aluminum in after to prevent the aluminum from oxidizing while the copper's melting. All right, let's close her up. And fire up the furnace. Over the next hour or so, I will heat the furnace. We're aiming for 2100 degrees today. Aluminum melts at 1222 Fahrenheit, and copper melts at 1984 Fahrenheit. So we're going to aim a little bit above the melting point of copper to ensure a good pour. While I'm waiting for the furnace to heat up, I can tell you a little more about the casting process, or processes. Last year I used a sand casting process. This year I'm using an open mold. You might recognize the pattern I used for the Year of the Ox, my amateur attempt at carving a muskox head. For a sand casting, I use a flask. This is the drag, the bottom part of the flask. And I'll take the pattern, put it in, fill the flask with sand, and then ram it up so the sand is very compact. Then I flip over the drag, put the cope on top, and then ram up the cope with sand as well, with the pattern on that parting plane. So then I have a solid flask full of sand with the pattern in the middle. But basically I take the cope off, it doesn't stick to the drag, and I put 2 holes down to the empty chamber, casting chamber, where the pattern was. One is called a sprue, and that's where I pour in the metal, and the other is called a riser, and that's where the excess air and the remaining metal comes out the other side. That's useful in developing some back pressure to really fill in all the voids inside the pattern and get a good cast. Because a dragon is a little beyond the scope of my carving skills, I opted to go with an open mold casting process this year, and it really simplifies the process because I can pour directly into the graphite mold instead of having to ram up the sand each time. In my first casting day, I was able to make 31 pieces instead of I topped out at 8 a day last year. While I do have the advantage of speed and being able to produce more units, I'd lose some definition in moving from the sand casting process to the open mold process. Along with that loss of definition, I get some overpour, so you can see the pattern is only a few millimeters thick, and then I have several additional millimeters of just excess aluminum. I don't mind how the finish turns out. It really smooths everything out, so it's kind of a cool effect. But it's a disadvantage, whereas sand casting, you can really keep it true to the pattern. I can show you some of the tools of the trade. So this is a tabletop furnace. It's electric. It goes up to 2200 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a nice little unit. It's got a PLC to precisely control the temperature. Nice little unit. Inside that goes the crucible. This is an all graphite crucible. Some are made from a mix of clay and graphite. Usually those are a little bigger and used with propane furnaces. The metal goes inside, obviously. Has a nice little pour spout and a ring to insert the tongs to remove the crucible when it's time to pour. Got a graphite stirring rod back here, which is used to obviously stir the metal, and the slag that sits on top of the melted metal also kind of sticks to the graphite rod, so it's useful to remove impurities before pouring. And like I said, here's the graphite mold I'm using this year. The nice thing about graphite is it is non-reactive with the metals, so you don't get any reaction or oxidization from the crucible itself, only from the air surrounding. And then, very important, the bucket of dirty water, which I use to quench the pieces once they come out of the mold. The quenching hardens the metal, but that's not really why I use it. It's just more convenient to be able to cool it quickly and then be able to work with it right away. I just set the temperature to the final 2100 degrees. We'll keep heating here. You can already see the crucible glowing inside the furnace. I have a piece of aluminum heating up here, so it's somewhat preheated before it goes into the copper. But I can show you a quick peek inside. It looks like the copper is largely melted at this point, so I'm going to add the aluminum and then start getting ready to pour. The last thing I need to do is just torch the mold a little bit to make sure there's no residual moisture, which could cause cracking, spatter, nothing good. So I'm just going to lightly torch these and see the color change just a little bit. And that should be good. After much struggling to get it out of the quenching bucket, I would say I have a pretty successful cast. We have a split down the middle. I'm sure it's due to quenching it a little too early, but I like this quality. Feels solid. You can see some of the grain structure in there, which is really cool. A little bit of porosity here, not the end of the world. Especially because this is cosmetic. So, yeah, I'm going to keep going, and hope you enjoyed.